Revelation chapter 12. If you look at the bookmark, I gave Mary, I put a copy of the bookmark on your Bible or something if you wanted to follow along. You don't, I mean, you don't have to follow along right this instant, but if you look at your bookmark, if you have it, we're still in this intermission or timeout phase. The last trumpet judgment hasn't yet sounded, which is the last series of 7 judgments that the Lord Jesus is pouring out on an evil world. Hasn't sounded yet, and in the meantime, there's these series of intermissions as we're building up to the big event. And here, the Apostle John decides in chapter 12, decides to give us this symbolic overview of salvation history from preparing for the birth of Jesus all the way until the present day to sort of give a brief, quick summary of what's happened. And he doesn't do it in this like bullet point, lawyerly way. The Lord gives him these really suggestive visions, like very like they're not flashbacks, but they're very powerful visions that really stick in your head, that are just trying to get across how far we've come in salvation history from preparing for the birth of Jesus all the way until the present. That's this chapter. Next chapter, we're going to see the rise of the Antichrist in Revelation 13. Getting back to, and John's going to basically get us back to the point of, and this is where we are now, and then he will show us the last judgments being poured out. So we're in Revelation chapter 12, and this is what we read. I'm going to read verses 1 to 6, and then we'll pause and we'll see how far we get. So this is what it says. A great sign appeared in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and on her head a crown of 12 stars. And she was pregnant, and she cried out, being in labor and in pain to give birth. Then another sign appeared in heaven. So it's like, have you seen like a movie where someone has a flashback and there's not a lot of detail, but there's just like a flash of a quick cut of like a memory or a scene, and then it goes away. Or maybe you have to remember a dream that you had where it's not like some 2-hour long narrative. You just have this very vivid image of an incident or a scene or something, and then it goes away. That's how the Lord is revealing these little vignettes and little flashes to John. And when you put them together, they paint in Revelation 12 this through these series of little flashes of this scene, then that scene, salvation history. So first we see this woman, very strange woman, all these symbols with Old Testament links, and she's pregnant. She's in pain, ready to give birth. Then, verses 3 and 4. Then another sign appeared in heaven. So, scene number 2. And behold, a great red dragon, having 7 heads, 10 horns, and on his heads were 7 crowns. And his tail swept away 1/3 of the stars of heaven and hurled them down to earth. The dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she gave birth, he might devour her child. And she gave birth to a son, a male, who's going to rule all the nations with a rod of iron. And her child was caught up to God and his throne. Then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared by God, so that there she would be nourished for 1,260 days. And now I'm going to pause. That's where we're going to look at right now. We might finish the rest depending on how far we get. So when a really good principle that I want to try and beg us to think about when you have visions like this is people get lost in the weeds trying to figure out might answer every question about what does this mean? What does that mean? And they forget to just zoom out and say, what is the overall point that's being conveyed, right? So verses 1 to 2, what do you think is going on here? What do you think is going on here? We have a woman. She's sort of glowing and clothed with the sun, the moon under her feet, crown of 12 stars on her head. That's weird, but you can set that aside if you want and just focus on the fact there's a woman who's pregnant and she's about to give birth. Based on what we've already read, who is this woman giving birth to in this vision? What do you think's going on? Jesus. So Marvin says Jesus.
Sounds like Mary, but like how they.
Okay, so you say it sounds like Mary because she gives birth to Jesus, right? So this is the thing. So let's just establish first of all John's trying to show us. We can talk about the woman in like 30 seconds, but first of all, There is just the point is there is a woman who's going to bring forth a really important guy, right? The guy is Jesus. That's going to be clear. So we just need to get that part clear. Okay, so now that we have that, now we can sort of pause and say, who's the woman?
Seven would be the seven tribes of Israel.
Okay, so we have two things here. So we have Beverly who says it sounds like the woman might be Israel, right? Because she has 12 stars, which could mean, she has like the 12 tribes of Israel, and Israel is the nation from whom Jesus came. And then we have Peter saying, well, Mary's the one who gave birth to Jesus. Maybe it's Mary, right? Does anyone else have any idea, any opinion? Well, it doesn't say, first of all. So it's okay, as long as we realize the woman brings forth Jesus. Okay. So does anyone else have an opinion about who this woman could be?
It says like I don't know what the 1,260 days is kind of interesting, but it says like the woman fled into the wilderness, kind of like when like Mary fled like away from Herod. But I don't know, that wouldn't make any sense. Like why they took on Mary? I don't know.
I think
Okay, that's good. That's
the fact that she gave birth to a male child and then she fled into the wilderness to be protected by God. It sounds like maybe Mary was like fulfilling symbolism from this, but this was written afterward.
Mhm.
But like, there's definitely symbolism, but I don't think it's completely accidental
Okay.
in Mary's story to this prophecy.
Because it contained the 12 stars and the moon under her feet. I think it was an angel of some type.
Okay. Okay. So one thing, where is it? So so John likes to pull the Lord uses John to pull a whole bunch of symbols from the Old Testament to like make you remember or look back or realize it's like a connect the dot thing pointing to something. So in Genesis 37, Joseph has those dreams that his brothers hate him for. He has these dreams, so he tells his brothers about them. His brothers hate him, and then they try and kill him. In one of Joseph's dreams in Genesis 37, he has a dream, and in his dream, the sun and the moon and 11 stars are bowing down to him. That's not exactly, it's close. It's not exactly what the woman's like. The sun, she's clothed with the sun, the moon is there, and there are 12 stars orbiting her. That's not exactly what Joseph said. It's kind of close, though. It's kind of close. Yeah.
Well, in Joseph's dream, it's the 11 other tribes.
Yes.
Whereas here it's all 12.
Yeah. So this is what I would say. But does anyone else have anything they want to comment about the woman? Okay. So this is what I would say. If you want to see, I don't think that the woman is Mary, because it's going to go on and I think make clear that it's probably not Mary. The woman probably stands for something else. So there's two options. One is it's Israel. The other is it's God's people. In the Old Testament, Israel is referred to as the Lord's bride, like a rebellious bride who's like cheated on him all the time. Hosea talks about that. Ezekiel 16 talks about that. So, and there's this big thing in the Old Testament how the Lord has chosen Israel and she's cheated on him, done him wrong, but he loves her anyway and he's going to pursue her. And in the New Testament, it talks about the church, how the church is the bride whom Christ died to cleanse in Ephesians 5. So in the Old Testament and the New Testament, the people of Israel and the church, they're both referred to as this woman who has a very special relationship with the Lord, who he's chosen, who's his bride. So I think that we're on very safe ground to say this woman who brings forth the Messiah is God's people. Could be Israel, could be the New Testament church.
Well, the church after the birth of Jesus. So.
Yeah, but yeah, so I think here, I think it actually refers to both in different places. So here, I think it's talking about Israel, who brought forth Jesus, who's the son of Abraham. So that's what we have in verses 1 and John. Again, this is just like a movie. It's just a little flash of a flashback to show you salvation history, and then we're going to flash forward to something else in this chain. So we have a woman, probably I think Israel, who's in labor and is going to bring forth the Messiah. Then verses 3 and 4. Who does not want who is waiting to destroy the Messiah as soon as he's born? Satan, because he's a dragon, right? Verses 3 to 5, the great red dragon. I mean, I don't care who you are. A great red dragon is not a good thing, right? I mean, everyone can read this and say, well, that's not good, you know? So, and in the Garden of Eden, Satan takes on the form of a serpent, which could also be translated like a dragon-like figure. He in Revelation. So this is clearly Satan. So you have this flashing to this vision in heaven. A dragon is like waiting with his claws and his flames sort of spurting from his nostrils. This image of like, I am waiting to destroy this boy the moment he's born. And that's why verse 4 says the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, just waiting. You picture him growling like the dinosaurs from Jurassic Park, that purring, growling sort of thing, waiting to destroy the child. I mean, this is a vision. So clearly, when clearly there is no dragon, crouching outside the stall in Jerusalem, but you get what he's saying. He's waiting. And he was waiting. He used Herod to do it, right? Attempted to slaughter all the children in Bethlehem. So if you know the gospel stories and you read this, you can immediately say, I understand the connection that the Lord's making in this vision. In verse 4, I don't think verse 4 is saying his tail swept away a third of the stars of heaven and hurled them to earth. Some people believe this is some reference to angels falling from heaven. If that were the case, that would mean that the dragon made his own angels fall from heaven. I think this is just a visionary way to say he's a really powerful, scary guy, right? His one flick of his tail, it's like he wipes a third of the stars out of the sky. It's just saying this is a very bad, very powerful, scary dragon creature, and he's the one who's waiting to destroy this child, this helpless child that's about to be born to this woman. And we already know this, but John's just giving these little dramatic flashbacks. So now in verses 5 and 6, what happens? What happens with the woman? What does she do? She gives birth to a son. Your Bible may even capitalize son, so you get the fact that this is Jesus. She gives birth to a son, a male, who is going to do what?
Rule all nations with an iron rod.
He's going to rule all the nations with a rod of iron, which is well, it's not a direct, it's referring to Psalm chapter 2, one of the most famous Psalms in all of Scripture, about the Lord who's going to rule all nations with a rod of iron. Psalm chapter 2, verse 9, God speaks to his son and says, you shall break them with a rod of iron, the enemies in the earth. You'll shatter them like earthenware. So John's deliberately grabbing hold of Psalm 2 and saying the son who this woman gave birth to, he's going to rule all nations with a rod of iron. But meanwhile, the dragon's waiting. Is the dragon going to destroy this boy as soon as he's born? What does the end of verse 5 say?
Child was caught up to God into his throne.
What is that referring to? So we're not going, again, this is not like a legal argument with bullet points for every little detail. These are just little flashback things like in black and white. So the kid's born. He's the one who's going to rule all the nations, but he was caught up to God into his throne. What event do you think that's referring to?
Yeah.
When Jesus goes to heaven, he dies, right? I mean, he's executed. Maybe Satan's won, but then he rises from the dead and he goes back to heaven. So caught up to God and his throne, like the ascension, when they saw him caught up and he goes back to heaven just like he promised. So again, these are just real broad paintbrush strokes of things that they already know, but it's being told in this real dramatic, visionary fashion. Like you might know the gospel stories, but if you like The Chosen and you watch it, it sticks in your mind because you're seeing a Bible story depicted on the screen, and it puts the word of God is sufficient, but seeing it in a different kind of medium it just sort of maybe cements things in a very visionary way, which is why a lot of people like The Chosen so much. So this vision of things we already know, it's already in the Gospels, but it really just, in a very dramatic way, just cements in our mind the basic story. The kid's about to be born. He's the one who was promised. Satan's waiting to destroy him. Satan doesn't get it done. Verse 6, then the woman fled into the wilderness where she had a place prepared by God. So there she'd be nourished for 1,260 days. So what is this referring to?
Oh, it's about 3 years.
So 1,200.
Half of the
It's 3.5 years.
Okay, so it is exactly 3.5 years. So what is it talking about then?
Is it 3.5 years in our current calendar?
Yeah.
Like 365 days, exactly 3.5 years?
No, it's using 360. It's rounding. It's three and a
Okay,
half
I see.
years.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's 3.5 years. So some people think that verse 6 is referring. So some people think that the woman is only Israel, period, end of story. It can't be anything but Israel. And that because the 1260 days are mentioned, it must be referring to God protecting Israel during the Great Tribulation. I That does make sense. I don't think that's what it's talking about because we're skipping so far. We would just, if that's true, we'd be skipping from Jesus's ascension to the Great Tribulation and skipping a whole lot of salvation history that is still yet to be discussed in verses 7 through the end of the chapter. But it's very possible. I'm like 55% certain that I think what it is talking about is because God's when God talks about his bride in the Old Testament, he's talking about Israel a lot. In the New Testament, he borrows that image and talks about the church as his bride too. So I think the Lord's taking this image of the woman meaning his people and is using it for Israel at the beginning. And now he's using it for the church, sort of fleeing away from Satan and being protected during this interview, being protected from Satan after the time of Jesus being caught up and going back to the Lord, which is why the church is still standing today. That's what I think. I could be wrong. I'm at about 55%. You can make it work to be just Israel if you wanted to, and there's nothing wrong with that. It could make sense. So you can take your pick, but the God's people as a woman whom he loves, can refer to Israel, or it could refer to the church. It's used for both. It's a common image because it just works really well. I think chapter 12 is going in order. So I think it's the church, but that's okay. Verse 7. I'll do verses 7 to yeah, I think we can finish. This last bit really speaks for itself. Verse 7. What happens after what I believe after the child is that Jesus is caught up into heaven and the church is being protected by God? What happens after that in verse 7?
Like the dragon, his angels.
Yes. So verse 7, there was war in heaven. Michael and his angels waging war with the dragon. The dragon and his angels waged war, and they did not prevail, and there was no longer a place found for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, the serpent of old. The serpent, it's deliberately saying the dragon is the snake from Revelation, from Genesis 3. The serpent of old, who was called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world, he was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. Then I heard a loud voice in heaven saying, now the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ has come. So what's it saying here?
It's like talking about like after Jesus died and Satan was defeated.
Okay. So some people think this is talking about when Satan rebelled and he was cast out of heaven before Genesis 3, like way back in the beginning. I think that just makes the whole thing jump around in a schizophrenic way. I think it's very simple just to see it going in order. The woman is pregnant. The woman gives birth to the child. He's the king who was promised. Satan is waiting to destroy the child. Satan fails. The child is caught up to God in his throne. The woman, God's people, the church here, is protected by the Lord. Then there's war in heaven. Satan is thrown down, and the loud voice in heaven is saying, now Jesus is reigning. So I view this as sort of a penultimate, like Jesus is back in heaven. And we know from Job that Satan does have some sort of access to go into the Lord's throne room even after the fall. But now it's as though now that Jesus has done his work and he's gone back to heaven, it's like they've tossed him and all his garbage from his basement apartment out onto the curb and said, you're out of here. It's over. You're defeated. It's done. He lived, he died, he rose again. You are done. You've lost. All that remains is for this to play out. You've already lost, which is why in verse 10 they're saying, now the salvation and the power and the kingdom of our God and the authority of his Christ have come. Like It's like he's been defeated. Symbolically, we booted him out. Can't even come in. He doesn't need to come in here anymore. It's over between us. The accuser of our brothers and sisters has been thrown down, the one who accuses them before our God day and night. And they overcame him because of the blood of the Lamb and because of the word of their testimony. They're saying he's been kicked out because of what Jesus has now done. If this were about Satan being kicked out of heaven way back in the beginning, why are they talking about the blood of the Lamb having kicked him out? If that makes sense. I think they've it's like they've taken Satan's key card away. Now he can't get in there anymore. He's lost forever. He's kicked out, and the voices in heaven are singing praises because he's officially, formally lost. Like, to go back to the baseball analogy, the game, like it might be the bottom of the seventh inning, but you've just had like a 7-run inning. It's over. Like, it's over. Yeah, there's still 2 more innings left, but it's over. It's done. Celebrate, unless you're the Mariners, in which case there's no point celebrating. You'll probably blow the lead. They're not going to blow the lead, right? So that's listen to what they say in verse 12. They've ejected Satan. They're singing. And what do they say in verse 12? What's it say in verse 12?
Therefore rejoice, O heavens, and you who live in the heavens rejoice. The terror will come on the earth and sea. The devil will come down to you in great anger, knowing that he has little time.
Yeah, so they're saying things are going to be even Satan is going to try very hard to destroy what Jesus has wrought. He's going to try really hard because he knows he only has a short time. It's like he knows it's over for him. And that's what we read. I'll just read through the last 4 verses. And when the dragon saw that he was thrown down to the earth, he persecuted the woman who gave birth to the male child. So he's pursuing, you can view this both ways. He's pursuing the people of God, whether it's the Israelites who are being pursued, who have always been pursued all over the world and there are not many places where the Jewish people can be and be in safety. Just look at the Mills and their reports from Israel. And Satan is also trying to destroy the church. Always trying to destroy the church. Always, always, always. So this dragon is persecuting God's people, the woman, whether it's Israelites or whether it's the church in general. But the 2 wings of the great eagle were given to the woman so that she could fly into the wilderness to her place where she was nourished for a time, times, and half a time, away from the presence of the serpent. So you're picturing this great bird, like in Exodus chapter 19, when the Lord carried Israel away on eagle's wings to safety. This image is being brought here and again and saying, Satan's trying to destroy God's people, but the Lord is protecting them, protecting God's people. Verse 15, and the serpent hurled water like a river out of his mouth after the woman so that he might cause her to be swept away by the flood. He's trying to, like, in this vision, it's like he's trying to drown her, trying to blot out this woman and her children before they can, spread far and wide. But the earth helped the woman, and the earth opened its mouth and drank up the river which the dragon had hurled out of his mouth. So the dragon was enraged with the woman and went off to make war with the rest of her children who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus. So the dragon hasn't been able to stomp out the woman or her children. And he's running around everywhere trying to stomp down and destroy the woman's children. Churches scattered all over the world. The people, the Jewish people as a people, and the church scattered all over the world. And he hasn't been able to do it, and he's enraged by it. And John's writing this, and with these visionary flashbacks in this dramatic way, the point that he's making is like, Satan has never been able to stop this king named Jesus who's going to rule over everything. And he's so angry about it. He's angry about it even right now. And he's running around trying his best to stomp out this fire that he can't stomp out. So what is he going to do? What's Satan going to do to try and, what rabbit is he going to pull out of his hat to try and stop this whole thing? Then we have the Antichrist in Revelation 13, which is Satan's nuclear option to try and put a stop once and for all to this plan the Lord has to regain paradise for all the people who love him. And so that's in quick fashion, that's Revelation chapter 12. People may disagree about little bits and pieces. I didn't cover everything that could be covered, but if you zoom out and see the big picture with these visions, that seems to be the general chronological picture that John's trying to paint to people who already know, but who need encouragement as they're facing persecution from their local Roman authorities. And as we're here, as believers in 2026 here or in Bangladesh or South Africa or India or wherever, who need encouragement that Satan is losing and he's going to lose no matter what. And everything he's always tried, he's always failed to destroy the woman, God's people, and the woman's children, the people who belong to her.